Hey, it's Tay with Mom on the Spectrum. I have a little less spunk today because I am still in the middle of meltdown/shutdown. But making these videos and connecting to y'all in the comments has been really helpful. So I'm back today to talk about COVID and mental health. It's kind of a big topic. It's one that I've been wanting to talk about on here for a while now. But today just feels like a good day. We sent our two kids back to school last week and all of the changes have really got me in knots. So I thought it might be a good time to talk about all of the changes going on. I've heard a lot of similar stories in the comments from y'all, and so I wanted to open the discussion in terms of how our mental health is being affected by COVID and what we can do to find sanity and peace in the midst of it all. So I do have some spunk in my tank to say thank you so much for 500 subscribers. I can't believe it. I started this channel to help other people like me who are diagnosed later in life, parents maybe, females. I wanted to create resources and a safe space for people to explore what it means to be on the spectrum. So thank you so much for 500 subscribers. I continually love connecting with y'all in the comments and learning from you and learning what type of content and resources are helpful. So please continue doing that. Please share this channel, and if you haven't already, subscribe, because that's the #1 way that you can help support the channel and help it grow and help the videos show up for other people like us who are looking for them. Okay, I'm gonna be honest, that's about all the spunk that I have left in my tank today. This whole situation with makeup and bow is more of like a dress for the job that you want rather than dress for the job that you have type of mentality. Maybe dress for the mindset that you want rather than the mindset that you have. So the last video that I made about being in a meltdown kind of became clear. It's almost a little funny to me that after that video I realized, oh, this is more than a meltdown, this is more of a shutdown. I just have been out of commission. I think what's really cool about a neurodiverse community is that the first response to me sharing my experience is not, oh, you're doing too much, you're stressed, you know, what if you did this, what if you did this, which I think maybe is more typical of autistic people or non-autistic people. Y'all's comments have been like, oh, I totally relate, I understand. Y'all are sharing more words to describe exactly what I'm feeling. You're not negating my experiences. And so I just really appreciate that, and I think that's really, really cool. It's one of the things I'm most grateful for with my autism diagnosis is that it's connected me to other like-minded people who don't negate other people's experiences. It's so great to have an autistic community who's like, nope, I see you, and even though you don't have the words to describe it, here's how it presents for me, and I'm thinking about you and I support you. All of the responses have been so great, and I hope that in return I've been able to give some of that back to y'all. Part of the reason I wanted to make a video today is because I woke up not knowing what mental state I was going to be in. I don't know if y'all can relate to that. And I was so frustrated because I opened my eyes this morning and I was like, oh, I still don't feel like myself today. And after I dropped the kids off, I just glanced at some of the comments on my videos because I was really behind. And I was just reminded, like, these are my people. These people understand me and they get me. And I don't know if you ever feel like you need a reminder that there's other weird-minded people out there. I mean that in like the highest form of compliment. There's other people out there who have weird brains like me. And this is where I wanted to be today, making a video for y'all because of the support that you've given me. My cat is behind the camera about to scratch his face, and I'm sure knock my whole setup over. Don't do it. Whoa. Do you want to sit with me? It has to be his idea. Do you want to sit with me? So I just needed a reminder that there's other people who wake up and wonder, what is my mental health going to be like today? I feel like that's a good segue into COVID stuff because it has constantly changed the landscape of life. It's very hard to wake up and think, what is this day going to hold? Because being on the spectrum especially, we crave routine, we crave consistency, and COVID has blown that up. It sucks. And it's really hard, and I find myself always trying to be a positive person. Glass is half full, but that's been especially difficult. This past year, I was able to make it work to the best of my ability. I stayed home. I was really fortunate to be able to be in a situation where I could do that and homeschool my kids. And I will tell you that I'm not a homeschool mom. It was a challenging year for all of us, but in many ways beneficial, and I did love spending that extra time with my kids. I'm realizing now that that also kept me from having to interact with a lot of people, and it hit me this week. Oh my gosh, I think part of the reason that I'm in shutdown mode is that I've had to have so much interpersonal communication with teachers, administration. We're trying to get my kids the therapy that they need. So school psychologists, diagnosticians, I've had to have so much correspondence with a much higher number of people than I'm used to, and it's been extremely draining. So last Monday, we sent my second grader and my kindergartner to public school. In many ways, It's amazing. They're both loving school, and I'm really grateful for that. I have time during the day to be to myself. I'm operating on such a deficit for alone time that it's like I almost can't enjoy the alone time that I do have, because it just feels like not even close to enough. And I feel kind of guilty for saying that out loud. Immediately whenever I say I feel guilty, my internal monologue is like, don't feel guilty, you need this time. You know, it's hard because I do have alone time now, but I'm in recovery mode, and so no amount of alone time feels like enough. And sometimes that makes me feel kind of selfish as a mom, as a wife, as a friend. But I know that I will show up better in all of those roles if I do take care of myself. So the past week I was kind of in survival mode, getting the kids to school, getting our new routines established. Somebody has said in the comments they felt kind of silly because they sent their kids to school and they didn't realize, like, oh yeah, this completely changes my routine too. Well, I feel the exact same way. Of course I knew it would change my kids' routines and schedules, but the first day that I was without them, I was like, oh my gosh, my entire calendar is completely different in every way, shape, and form. And that's so unsettling to me. I was even thinking, you know, to go back and do some of the same things that were in my routine before school would feel pretty good, even though they don't necessarily make sense now. Like, there's no need for me to have some of those things in my routine, because instead of going outside of the house to get them done, I can do them inside the house. But just having some sort of familiar structure, I'm really craving that right now, and it's really hard to find. But we made it through the first week. My son came home on Friday with a fever. It didn't develop until that evening, and I went kind of into panic mode. Not on the outside, but just internally, and I kind of realized how scared I am of the whole COVID situation. I started spiraling, thinking, if this happens, that means this is going to happen, and that's going to affect my husband's work. And so I started spinning out, thinking about all the possibilities of what this might mean. Fast forward, my son took a COVID test, I took a COVID test, it's all negative. It was like a really weird virus that had no symptoms other than fever. He was playing and everything, totally fine. So it came and went very quickly, but the internal process of what happened during that time for me was very unnerving. It's really hard as a parent to navigate this, because as an autistic mom, I came to grips with the fact that it was not good for my mental health to embark on another year of homeschooling. Also financially, we need to transition to where both my husband and I are working. And so having that realization of, oh, I can't homeschool my kids, we have to send them to school in the midst of a pandemic, it's a very scary feeling. I live in a state where mask mandates have been banned, which is hard, again, because having neurodivergent kids, it definitely affects their learning, having to wear a mask all day. So in one sense, I'm glad that they don't have to wear a mask every day, because I know that it would really bother them. But in another sense, I wish that they did, because it would make me feel that they were safer and that our health was more protected. And so I immediately had this sense of like, oh my gosh, they're going to bring home so many germs. I know that sometimes, along with being on the spectrum, it can be associated with other things like fixations. And for me, one of those fixations is on health and sickness. And I get really, really upset about sickness. I don't like the unpredictability that it brings. I don't like how it changes routines and schedules. I don't like how sickness affects my mind, because it takes it out of the flow of what I'm used to. And so I started dealing with these feelings of, I can't control the day. You know, I can't keep my kids at home like I've done for the last year and a half, and we managed to minimize contact. Now it's just like I'm opening the door wide open and just trying to take things one day at a time, and it's been really, really intimidating. So I felt like it was important to open that door and share that, because I know so many of us parents are feeling that way, but we haven't necessarily had a place to talk about it or process it. And it's very important that we do process it, or else all of that frustration and tension and fear, it just keeps building. And I think that's part of what's led me to this meltdown/shutdown, because all these emotions are just like, oh, I don't know what to do. So now that I'm getting some perspective and kind of lining that up with what I'm seeing and reading in the comments, it seems like this is a big topic that a lot of us are struggling with right now. My husband is in education. I was in education for a decade, and I have many close friends who are in education. I don't know where you're at in the world, but here we just started a new school year, and for some reason this year it just feels different. It feels different than original COVID. There's something almost a little heavier about this time around. Something else, I guess, that maybe is going unsaid is, you know, this is the Delta variant, but then what's next? What comes after that? And it's really unnerving. It's really hard as a parent, because we want the best for our kids. And I know for my kids, that means giving them experiences outside of the home where they can receive therapies, where they can receive extracurricular activities, art, music, and that means letting them go out into this world where there's a pandemic. The teachers that I know are saying this year feels harder, it feels different, it feels a little heavier, it's a little more difficult to navigate. When COVID was first here, there was plenty to keep us busy in terms of learning how to alter our schedule, learning how to minimize contact, and now we're kind of settling into a groove where we know how to stay 6 feet away from people, we know to put our mask on before we go in the store. There's less to think about in terms of new things to learn, new things to navigate, and now it's starting to feel more normal, and that really sucks. That's really hard. It's a really isolating and sometimes scary feeling. You know, if nothing else, I think saying it out loud and connecting to other people who feel the same way is one step that we can take towards unity and to feeling less alone. So if you're feeling that way too, I just want to say that I'm completely with you, and I don't have the answers. I don't know how to make it all better. I don't know what the right decisions are for you and your family in terms of education and staying safe and work. I know for me it's affecting my work decisions because I'm applying to new jobs. The other big part of all this is this new routine with the kids is going to be so great. They love it. The teachers are amazing. The educators are wonderful. The programs are going to be just what they need. But I can't help but fear that as soon as we get into a routine, that it's going to be completely thrown off by sickness that we can't control. So it's almost like I sit at home and I'm kind of like waiting for something to fall through. I'm waiting for our routines to be thrown off and have to figure everything out again. As a parent, I just want to say that I'm with you. This is extremely hard. We're gonna get through it. I have been reminded over and over again of the resilience of the human spirit through all of this. There's so many good things to celebrate. Mr. Rogers, who's one of my all-time faves, he always said, look for the helpers. There's always people helping. And so if you feel caught up in the mess of all of this and the fear and the uncertainty, look for the people who are helping. If you are able to help yourself in any way, a lot of times that can help us get out of a rut. So if that's donating financially, I know a lot of grocery stores, they have programs where you can buy a bag of food and donate it to a homeless shelter. If you can drive someone to get vaccinated, there's so many creative things you can do to help others. It might even just be dropping off a meal on your neighbor's porch, offering to pick up your neighbor's kids on the way home from school. I realize that all of us are in different situations in terms of what we feel comfortable doing with the virus right now, but you can be creative, and I just want to remind you that there are a lot of people helping, there are a lot of people coming together, and if you're in a rut, see how you can reach out and find ways to help others, even if it's really small, and notice if that makes a difference in how you feel about the whole situation. And then once you find a way to give that feels good, lean into that and give a little bit more. The other thing that's been frustrating to me here in America, I really think that our healthcare here does not reflect the importance of mental health care. And I was really pleasantly surprised this last year during the first round of COVID, a lot of insurance companies were able to cover mental health services at 100%. Regardless of what type of plan you had. You better believe I took advantage of that every single week. I did weekly therapy for like 9 months. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm a huge proponent of therapy. You know, we get checkups for our physical health all the time, and you'd probably be hard-pressed to name another situation that's been as hard to get through as COVID. Some of you might have walked through terminal illnesses and things like that, and I'm sorry if that's you and that you've had to walk through that. But also this whole experience with COVID, I mean, this has been a devastating experience. And to think that we can navigate that without therapy is just, it's such a great tool. And I want to encourage you that if you do have access to therapy, if you have funds to afford that, check into it. There's online therapy, there's text therapy, there's so many different options available to you. And sometimes just talking through the things that are in your mind and your heart, it can really alleviate a lot of the stress and a lot of the burden that you're carrying around every day, and you might not even realize that you're carrying it. But I hope that we can learn, at least in America, to continue to do things like that, to prioritize mental health care. And in many ways, I hope that soon we might be able to initiate more programs to cover mental health services again, because I feel like it makes a world of difference. It reminds us that we're not alone, there's nothing wrong with us, we're all walking through so much right now, and we're capable of change, we're capable of growth, we're capable of finding goodness in the midst of all of this chaos. And it's a good reminder that we're human and that we're not going to do it perfectly, and that we need to give ourselves grace and compassion every step of the way. So let me remind you, regardless of what situation you find yourself in with COVID, whether you're quarantining, whether your kids are in public school, whether you're homeschooling, whether you work from home, whether you work in a hospital, thank you. Are you drinking enough water? If you're on the spectrum, are you allowing yourself to stim and stim frequently, whatever that looks like for you? Are you going to bed at a decent hour? Are you saying no to things that weigh you down? Are you prioritizing alone time? And all of these things might sound like a lot to manage right now, but pick one thing today. If that's drinking enough water, then do it. Commit to that. Put up reminders around your house, set an alarm on your phone, drink water. Aim to drink half of your body weight in ounces of water. I don't know what that converts to across the pond. You're important. You're worth taking care of. The world needs you in it. So make sure that you're prioritizing self-care. I shared this in the comments with Jared. I read a lot of stuff like Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra. I love them. Pema Chodron. I believe it was Eckhart that was sharing a parable from a monk, and one of his students was saying, please, I'll do anything. Please, please tell me what I need to do to be happy. Tell me what I need to do to be enlightened. And the monk said, you're not going to like my answer. And he said, no, please, I'll do anything. Tell me. And the monk said, you're not going to like my answer. And he said, please, whatever it is, just tell me. And the monk said, attention. And the student said, okay, who else can I talk to about this? But again, the monk said, pay attention to what is in front of you. Pay attention to one thing at a time. So as hard as that might be to do, as hard as that advice might be to follow, the world can be kind of a scary place, and our inclination can be to try to control so much of what is uncontrollable. But there's one thing in front of you right now, whether that's getting up to get a glass of water, or finishing that work assignment, or making the decision to switch up your childcare this year. That one thing that's in front of you, can you pay attention to that one thing at a time? Make sure that you're breathing. A lot of times I hold my breath when I'm stressed. I don't even realize that I'm doing it. Actually, let's do it right now. If you're watching this video, we're gonna take 5 breaths together. That's all we're gonna do. Okay, we're gonna breathe in for 3 and out for 5. So I'm not gonna try to count because then I can't do it. So in for 3, out for 5, we're gonna do that for 5 breaths, okay? I'm gonna uncross my legs. You're just gonna sit comfortably in your chair or on the floor and keep your spine tall. And here we go, 5 breaths, in for 3, out for 5. Wherever you're at, you can finish up on your own time. Don't try to be on my breathing rhythm. You've got your own. In the midst of chaos, when it feels like we can't control anything, we can control our breath. That might not seem like a lot, but if you practice controlling your breath, mindful breathing, I think you'll be surprised what it does for your mental health, what it does for your ability to reclaim control of small things in front of you, and to remind yourself that we can get through this one thing at a time. Thank you so much. Y'all have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.